Hello, entrepreneurs and self-starters. This is Rick Phillips from Yeti, and you're listening to the Startup Sandwich Podcast, the show that unpacks the bread-winning basics, juicy-filled journey, and secret sauce of entrepreneurship. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Startup Sandwich Podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to read this. In today's episode, we learn how Tanya Hales turned a Facebook group of 8 friends into $1 million global brand that works with the federal government and billion-dollar organizations. This sounds like a juicy sandwich, Tanya. Let's get into it. Tell us all about you.
I know. So who am I? I am a girl who likes long walks on the beach. My favorite color is blue. That's not relevant to the entrepreneurs. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't grow up in a household where that was encouraged or even thought of. My mom put me in French immersion because she wanted me to work for the UN. I'm like, Mom, that's really specific. I don't understand. But it was, go to school, get an education, get a job. So entrepreneurship was never on my radar. And I became a mom in 2012. And so I was just like, okay, you don't see single parents becoming entrepreneurs. That sounds stressful and crazy and hectic. And that's exactly what parenting is. So why would I do that to myself? But in 2015, I left my employment and started my own event planning company. That's what I was doing at the time. And that was wonderful. And, then of course, life and pandemic happened and stuff like that. So my entrepreneurship journey is very roller coastery, right? It's very much, I've got a skill set. I'm going to monetize it. I don't know what I'm doing, but let's go.
Right.
And then on the nonprofit side, and the reason why we're at this episode, it really stemmed from asking a question. Like most Gen X and millennial moms, I was in mom groups on Facebook because that's where we were all gathering to ask each other questions about motherhood and parenthood. And I asked the question, like, do they make sunscreen for Black people? I was at a splash pad with my son, and I was like, it's really hot, and it's not a question I'd ever asked before. Most Black people don't think that we need it. So I'm like, I can get through life with never having to think about this. But I was looking at my son, and I'm like, and I'm like, wait, where am I going to ask this question? So I asked 8 of my friends, if I started this thing, would you join? They said yes. And the rest is history.
Oh, but not to our audience yet. So let's get into this juicy sandwich. The audience probably really is curious at this point, saying, well, wow, that sounds like an interesting start. And what kind of business or nonprofit specifically would have to do with sunscreen or Black kids or Facebook? So why don't we tell them what is the name of the nonprofit you started and give us a little bit of details of how you transitioned from, I guess, as you said, to become an accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Facebook group was started in January 2015. And I was like, build it, they will come and they're going to gather and they're going to do their own meetups. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I think that is going to be the number one thing that resonates with a lot of entrepreneurs. We don't know, especially if you're not a serial entrepreneur or, again, it wasn't mirrored in your own household growing up, right? Everyone's just like, I got an idea. I'm just going to go and pursue it and hope for the best. In the spring of 2016, it went from 400 to 4,000 in 2 months. So that told me there was clearly a big need. The community was growing and building authentically, right? That wasn't me doing anything.
This is the Facebook group.
This is still the Facebook group. So I was like, okay, I'm very big on tangibles. Maybe that's the event planner in me. That's just the logical side of me. So I'm just like, it's great to have a space where they're connecting with each other and sharing information and resources. But how do we make it tangible? I knew I had to take it offline in some way. Creating a for-profit didn't really occur to me because I'm like, I'm going to have to make all the money myself and find a revenue source to create a business. So, and I had worked in charities. For also context, my background, my very first job out of university was Ottawa Food Bank, and then I worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters. So I've worked in charitable sector before. So I had a understanding of how they ran and how things went from a employee lens. So October 2016 is when I incorporated as a nonprofit so that it could take the conversation offline, seek funding, most importantly, and really offer tangible things to the moms. So our official tagline for Black Moms Connection is we're an online global village. I won't say the number yet because that's a really fun number that provides culturally relevant tools and resources to educate and empower the Black mom and her family.
And was Black Moms Connection the name of the Facebook group, or did you call the Facebook group something else?
That's a great question. Actually, the very first iteration was Black Moms Network. And I think that this is also something really important for entrepreneurs to know. What you name your business, it should be really straightforward and clear to anybody when you say what it is, right? If people have to guess, then you've just made it a little bit harder to market. What I learned in that first iteration is people then thought it was just a space to network, like LinkedIn. So exchange business. So, I have a business. They were really about just exchanging their businesses and their side hustles. They weren't connecting on the personal level that I was hoping for. So that's why I had to change from Black Moms Network to Black Moms Connection.
And words are powerful. As a communication skills enthusiast myself, I love playing with words. And, of course, as a business person, branding and marketing. And it's just so interesting how that one change of word can let the audience know, oh, this is what it's really about. And that also, that's really, really good going forward. So you've started this thing, you've got this Facebook group growing, you now incorporate it. What did you do to grow and to get support? Did you hire other people? Did you take some training? Did you hope and pray for the best and it worked out because you're a lucky person? Like, give us a bit about the growth strategy.
All of the above, Rick. Mostly a lot of praying and hoping. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. So now it's 2016. I'm just like, yay, we're incorporated. First, you have to find 3 directors. I'm like, yay, 3 random people to be in these government documents with me. And I was like, bylaws. I'm like, thanks, Government of Canada, for the templates of bylaws, because where's the camera? I didn't know what I was doing. I got nothing. Bylaws, who knows? Nobody knows. So thankfully, there's templates, right? And I think that, again, entrepreneurship is about learning as you go and, okay, who's done this work for me so that I don't have to do it from scratch? And if the government has a template for bylaws, I'm going to trust it because it's government. So did that. And then I had a relationship with someone at TD, pitched him the idea of what I wanted to do. And, a lot of times, again, people see oh, okay, they see the banks and they go to the banks and think the banks have all the money in the world. They do, but they don't. So they're like, we don't fund 100% first year events. So I think I had maybe let's say I asked for like 40K. He's just like, you get 10. I'm like, well, all right. The great thing is, though, my superpower is I planned events for a living. So I know how to be cost efficient. I know how to source different venues in the city. So we hosted our very first conference, the Black Moms Connection Conference. I was very, very literal with that one in 2017. And they were the presenting sponsor, reached out to different things. And the superpower and the meat and potatoes, the filling of the sandwich for Black Moms Connection is that the community came first. I didn't have to guess what they needed. They were talking about it every day in the Facebook group, what their concerns were, what their questions were. Does anyone know an X? Does anyone know where I can find Y? So I took those conversations and turned it into an in-person conference. And that day. It's funny, I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, that day was such a catalyst for so many things because TD was a sponsor, they had 2 panels. And the second one, it was all about basic banking, credit, savings. I'm just like, I'm going to put this in the basement. No one's going to go. This is boring. Everyone knows this stuff. I went downstairs. Rick, people were sitting on the floor. People were leaning against the walls. I was like, first of all, I'm a terrible event planner. How did I not call? I didn't see this coming. But it told me that yes, the information is out there, but people wanted it given to them in a culturally relevant way. They wanted a Black woman to explain things to them because women to women, we talk to each other differently, right? A group of men, they're hanging out, how they talk to each other. You're in communications, right? The
absolutely.
Gender changes how information is both given and received.
Right.
So now Black women are learning about banking and all the life hacks that are maybe not taught to us growing up or are not given to us when we go into a financial institution. So that was the catalyst, and that became the pillar and the anchor for Black Moms Connection. Financial literacy went from that one session where people were on the floor to, which is now our financial literacy summit called In the Black. And then it borned or begat, whatever the word is.
I think begat is okay.
Begat, okay.
I think so. Biblical English.
We like Finlit Universe. So Finlit U is now an 8-week masterclass program. We've got, and that's Ontario-based, and then we expanded nationally. So we have an East Coast and a West Coast one. Bizlit U was born out of Finlit U. In the Black is still happening. We're launching Finlit U Kids. So like financial literacy, which we know, the more information that you have about how to operate in your day-to-day, how to save for your kids, how to, build generational wealth, like the better it is. And we know happy moms, knowledgeable moms create knowledgeable and happy families, communities, and economies. And in Canada, women are 50% of the population. So while I'm serving a really small segment of women, I'm still helping the Canadian economy by doing the things that we're doing.
It's when I'm listening to you and other guests too, I'm thinking if I'm an audience member who maybe is already an entrepreneur, or maybe is thinking about it, and maybe they've dipped their toes in, maybe they haven't yet. And I always want to take opportunities to you and I together to be able to summarize key points for them. So for the audience that's listening, what we're also picking up is things like, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Use templates that might be available, government or otherwise. Use your connections. Use your previous experience in your business. Listen to your community. People have these phrases like community-oriented or customer service. But what you're doing is you're actually saying, and that's why I'm recapping this, is that the community told you through the Facebook group initially, and then through other means, this is what we want, this is what we care about. And because you listened, and you said, okay, great. For example, the financial literacy, you said, okay, this is a hit. We're going to do more of this, as opposed to, well, that's not really what I had planned. So I'm going to keep on with my plan A.
Yes.
You said, no, because it's community oriented. And I think this is a really good takeaway for our audience to remember, that no matter what your bright ideas are, your plan, listen to your community and talk to your community. So along this stream of thought, what advice can you give our entrepreneurs? How can they connect to their community? How can they get that market research information? Like, what's the best way or ways?
Man, I just ask. I keep having these conversations with folks. I'm just like, we've made so much so complicated. There's so much research out there. There's so much tools and resources. And that's what gets overwhelming for entrepreneurs, right? And two things for me that, I want to mention is, again, find the places where you can get the information given to you. I was lucky enough to do the Yeti non-for-profit program in 2018, 19, around there, pre-pandemic. And I didn't know. So at that point, BMC is 3 years old. It's got a brand. It's got a logo. I've worked with some great, I worked with banks, right? So I've got some good kind of traction, but Yeti made me understand how to turn it into a business. Everything that I just said about women being 50% of the population. And so because it was just like, well, why should the general population who isn't Black care about BMC? Well, because I'm building and bettering the Canadian economy by doing what I'm doing.
Right.
Everyone cares about a healthy economy, regardless of where you're from, your gender, your parental status. So Yeti really reframed things for me. And I still have my notebook that, it's just like, not everyone is a competitor. Some people are collaborators. And, some people serve the same audience in a different way, or they're serving a different audience in the same way. Like, so really just in terms of not everyone is, the scarcity is fake. In a way, there's a ton of money out there. Everyone's going to the same entities for the same amount of money. But if you collaborated together, and this is what the government says. The government's just like, you've asked me for money and you've asked me for money. Get together. Then we'll give you the money. Right. And then it shows that you're strong. And so I think, really seek out things like Yeti, or entities like Yeti that can support you, but then also just like, again, lean into the community. And your community can be your previous clients or people who you hope to be clients. Closed mouths don't get fed. Like, you have to ask. And it really was just, and again, a lot of things was right place, right time, but it was building the relationship. My relationship with TD started from a personal connection in 2017. We're in 2025 and it's still going. And that's not from that same personal connection. It's because we overpromise. wait.
Yeah,
Under promise and over deliver.
Right.
I always have to say, I'm just like, wait.
Yeah.
Right. And so, so many organizations, whether you're a for-profit or nonprofit, but specifically nonprofits, you put together this great grant proposal, this sponsorship deck, and you're going to promise them the world. You don't give them a report. You don't send them pictures. They have no idea. I'm like, they have to be able to justify giving you money to their boss.
Right.
So we give them the vault and we say, here's how many people we served. Here's how many people showed up. Here's some testimonials that you can use in your collateral. They want that. That's what they paid for, right? Sponsorship is not about charity. It's about marketing, especially in the nonprofit world. They don't care that we're a nonprofit. They care about reaching our audience as potential bank customers or business banking customers, right? They have a job. They've got metrics that they need to hit. Think about their metrics, ask them about their metrics. But when it comes to the community, like just polls. Polls are free on Instagram. Surveys, do a giveaway. Ask them. People want to give feedback. If you give them an opportunity to do so, they will. My previous job, I worked for MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and ran the 50-50 program. That's when you're in the arena or digitally you can buy and then you win half the money. And learned by just asking, people are very tied to the team brands. So if they play Leafs 50-50, they do not play Raptors 50-50 and vice versa. Even if the Leafs jackpot is bigger, Raps 50-50 players do not even, they're like all red and purple, right? And Leafs is like blue and white. But I thought I knew that, but asking them, I got 9 pages worth of survey. There was a ton of feedback. People were like, oh, you're finally asking me what I think. I'm going to tell you.
Right.
That's like, I can't think of anything else that's more simple than that. People want to be heard. If you give them an opportunity, if you give them an incentive, they'll tell you.
Very good. There are some potential entrepreneurs listening who are having a difficult time, especially in the first few years of business, getting money, raising funds. So you've mentioned a couple of times of going to the bank. You've also mentioned you had some sort of connection with TD. I think the question that some of them might have is, let's say the first 3 years of a brand new nonprofit. What's the strategy? Is there, because I think some of the audience would hear things like, well, if you can't get money at the very beginning. So any advice or suggestion for them in the first 3 years, how to raise funds?
So I was very clear before I did Yeti that I didn't want to be the nonprofit that was in the grant cycle. You know, you apply for funding for a program, you do it, you reapply, and you hope for the best. And I didn't want to be in that. And thankfully, we didn't get any. I didn't say thankfully, but we didn't get any government funding until maybe 2020. So again, that's like 4 years after I started. Again, I leaned into the skills that I already had. I know how to plan events. So I know how to read venue contracts and be like, oh, I don't need to feed. I knew how to leverage the skills that I already had on a completely separate front to be economical for BMC. So our second conference was, I think, in 2018. So I think really just if you know your audience, then you know who's paying a lot of money to reach that audience. Moms is a huge audience. So everything from diapers and Unilever, which we did end up getting some money from at some point in time. You know, any company that makes things for children is basically, you know, fair game for us to pursue. It has to make sense.
Right.
You know, people try to go after, they just throw everything in the pool. And I'm just like, you have to be strategic. You also have to start small and grow big, right? I learned, okay, if TD is saying we don't fund first year events fully, that means when you start a new relationship, ask for more knowing you're going to get less. Everyone loves to do events and they think that they're really easy and cheap. And I'm really confused by that. I'm here to tell people it is not. It is neither of those things, right? And so, okay, maybe your first event is 50 people. You sell out 50 people. You do well. You've got the receipts. You've got the pictures. You go back to that sponsor, be like, hey, we sold out. We had a wait list. We'd love to expand next year. Oh, okay, great. Then we'll double the money, right? If you're not giving these entities who are going to write you a check anything, they're not going to write you a check. just because your cause is good. For-profit business, it's the same thing. When you're partnering with any entity, right? Like that relationship is even more transactional. And so you have to build the relationship before. I think the key for me is all of my transactions came from relationships that I built. And sometimes you don't eat fruit from seeds that you planted the day before. You got to toil the soil. You have to have enough sun. You have to water. You might have to pull up the weeds. Might have to chase off the rabbits, but it might lead to something, but you can't have this expectation that it's going to be transactional immediately. People know that, right? No one wants to be used. And budgets, right? The banks, their fiscal is in October. So if you are asking them for any money in October, they're just like, we're done. We've already spent all our money. They probably spent it by March, to be wholly honest. Right? But if you're not doing all of this digging, no one wants to spend time in the research phase.
Right.
Entrepreneurs need to spend time in the unseen, unpretty, boring, tedious, or hire someone else, right? If that's not your strong suit, you don't want to do it. But if you don't have money in the early stage, you have to do the research. You have to figure out who is paying money to talk to your audience and when is their fiscal. Read their financial statements if they're a public company or, their statements are online. Like, dig.
Right. It's important for entrepreneurs to be very proactive, and speaking to you, it's obvious that it's you don't sit back and wait or until the government didn't send me a paper yet, or the bank didn't give me, the bank just said no and that's it, I guess. But actually to be proactive and do this research, whether it's official target market research or if it's research on how the banks work or when their fiscal years. So it's amazing to get that advice for the entrepreneurs to say, look, get off your butt, right? And do, what can you do to make that deal happen? If not now, then later. What can you do to get 20,000 instead of 10,000 next year, et cetera? And don't just listen to people like me that say in the first 3 years of a nonprofit, you're not going to get any money, because of course I meant the government grants. And then the counter argument to that is, well, if you partner with someone who's established, a charity or nonprofit, then you can. And that's, of course, that's a whole nother Yeti lecture.
Yep.
So it's great. The lesson here is to be proactive and to dig. And also one thing I want to pick out that you mentioned was the idea of relationship building, right? Not just with your customers or your clients or beneficiaries, but with these corporate sponsors, with these bankers. Build that relationship. Yeah. And that's a lot of work, right?
Oh man, is it ever? Yeah. But okay, so a couple of things. Oh my gosh, we could be here forever. I was very clear. I think I was the only person who did the Yeti program that did not want to be the executive director. Everyone, that's their goal. They started this thing. They toiled away at it. They built it from scratch. They want to get to the point where they get an ROI on their time invested. That's not the best use of it. First of all, BMC can't afford to pay me. Let's just be really clear. And two, I don't want to do payroll and budgets and boring things. No one can tell BMC story better than I can. Put a mic in my hand, put me on stage. I'll write the book. I'll do the public speaking. I'll do the relationship building. And so, and that's where I'm better suited. And I made someone my co-founder who she is spreadsheet budget queen. And I love that for me.
Right.
Because that is her superpower. That's her interest. She wants no part of being in the media. Me, put a mic in my hand. I'm good.
Right.
So now I have someone who picks up where I'm not necessarily super strong, and we're a great team, and we can, and you have to seek out people who are going to help you on the things and whatnot. And I'll give a couple of examples in terms of because in the beginning you're like federal government and billion-dollar brands. So a long time ago, I was invited to this roundtable at the City of Toronto City Hall. And it was all about people who are in the childcare space. Because I had mentioned to someone in passing, one of my big goals is to have a childcare center for BMC. We're in 2025 now. This was at least 3 to 4 years ago. And fast forward, throughout the time, I've done focus groups with them, all these other things, kept in contact. Didn't harass them. Whatever. And then 2 months ago, they reached out. So the municipal government reached out to me and said, hey, a grant is coming for you to apply to get some funding for the childcare center. Because they remembered from 4 years ago when I planted that seed and conversations throughout. So 4 years later, we might be finally getting the building that I want, right?
Amazing.
The federal government... That's so funny because, again, some of it is, yes, I knew a person who could introduce me to the right people, but I also show up, right? And so when the childcare minister says, hey, we're going to do a small gathering of parents, et cetera, in, I think it was like Burlington. Can you show up and bring your kiddo with you? I'm like, sure, why not? Hop in a car, I go, and I'm sitting across from the prime minister.
Right.
And we're talking about childcare.
Right.
And I'm a person who leads a mom's organization. And then, okay, I end up having conversations with the Minister of Women and Gender Equity. I have a conversation with the Minister of Health, the Minister of Housing, and planted all those seeds. And then an election was called, right? And so I have to start from scratch because it's a whole different team. It's a different government. They have different mandates. So relationship building is really, really difficult, especially with any government, right? There's an election, obviously, frequently with all levels. But I just named 2 different government levels where, seeds have been planted for a while and can lead to certain things. Where one day I got an email from the Deputy Prime Minister's office and they're like, do you have time for a quick call? And I'm like, what does the Minister of Finance want with me? Of the country, right? And wanted our advice on something. And eventually wanted us to make an official statement. And so, chatted with my board about it. And I'm like, hey, the turnaround time is too fast. We really can't, but let us know how we can help in the future. That is what I lead with in every conversation. Not, oh, I'm going to keep this person in my pocket. I mean, yes, but not in that particular way of what can I get from them. But I'm going to always offer myself up as a resource.
Right.
Because what I can do something that the government can't, which is reach 50,000 moms. Our community is now global. We've got chapters in Asia. We launched one in the continent of Africa this year, and we've got maybe 10 chapters across North America. So that number, that 50,000 moms, gets me attention and gets me in rooms, okay, she's got some trust from a lot of people that she can gather. Oh, I need a focus group of moms. BMC can help me with that.
Right. The database, it's so important, right? Either or. It's so important. And there's so many different ways to have that. But as you rightfully illustrated, when you have a number, if people are impressed by that, whether they might be potential partners or corporate sponsors, or in this case, the government, it's important for everyone out there listening to find a way to build a database, whether that's through your social media, your traditional newsletters, whatever it might be, but get that database built. Right?
Yeah, I will only say if I knew then what I knew now, I would have emphasized trying to build off of Facebook. It scares me every single day that my entire community is built on rented land, so to speak, right? It's not a home that I own. I don't own any of those folks. If Facebook decided to shut BMC down tomorrow, I'm lost, right? And that scares me, but I feel confident that we're not breaking any rules and they won't be deleting us anytime soon. So, as soon as you possibly can, start an email list, even if you're just like, hey, it's going to be monthly or quarterly, and you hire an intern to write your newsletter and, you fill in the blanks. You're building something, but, for us, it was just in terms of we've never fundraised from the community. I've never asked the moms for any money. They don't need another t-shirt from me. They ask for merch, and I'm like, you guys don't need a t-shirt. You want to know how to start an RESP, right? Again, I'm very big on the tangibles. So I think ultimately where your community lives is really important, where your customer base lives. It's fine if they're in multiple places, but if you could start an email list, then those people gave you their emails. Right. So that's opt-in, that doesn't break any castle laws. Right. So yeah.
Let's talk tangibles in terms of what does BMC offer today, just to give the audience a sense of what might a member expect as far as, because you're not asking them for money. So what's on the table for them?
Yeah. So I think ultimately just a space where they can ask Black mom questions and not have to give the precursors or wonder if it's going to start a controversy to ask a Black mom question, right? Navigating the school system as a Black parent is really, really tense. I don't have the luxury of ignoring when my son is going to be called the N-word. Okay? And I say when. It's an inevitability that it's going to happen to him. And it has. He's only in grade 7, and it's happened at 2 different schools. So I need to be able to talk to other moms who get it. or who have lived it or who are going to live it, you know? And so that I think is the number one thing, that we're a safe space for Black moms to connect with each other and have those important conversations that they can't really have safely anywhere else. It's really, being a woman online is unsafe. Being a Black woman online is unsafe. So if we can, as much as we possibly can, create a space where they can share with each other and do so safely, that's so, so important to me. Offline, as I said, we have Finlit You, which is free. It's 8 weeks, 5 hours. We give an Uber Eats code because I was going to have to feed them if it was in person. So now I'm feeding you. And we run that in Ontario. We run that 3 times a year. The national program we won on either coast, I think once a year. Bizlet U, I think, is run once a year. That's a 4-week entrepreneurship kind of boot camp. I don't like saying boot camp, but you know what I mean. We've got emergency grants. So moms, the Chromebook broke, they lost their boots. Children are always losing things. It's just really annoying. So we have an emergency grant where they don't have to worry about paying it back. It's, you applied, tell us a little bit about yourself. Here's some money. Whatever you do with it, I don't need the receipts.
Like a scholarship in some way, yeah.
Yeah, not even. I think it's just in terms of like, it always took a village to raise a child.
Right.
But it takes a village to raise a mom too. And if the mom is stressed about replacing these winter boots in the winter versus food, I don't want her to have to make that decision.
Right.
So here's some money, and you don't have to worry about it after that. We also have Rent Bank, where we will make a payment directly to the rental or mortgage provider if they're like, I'm going to be short on rent this month. And again, just trying to alleviate as much stressors as possible for the mom. And then we have a wellness vertical called You Okay Mama, which is both a question and a statement. And we do things like, we had a Mother's Day retreat. We do parenting workshops. We're going golfing next month. I'm very excited about the golfing. So it's things about the mental, physical wellness and gathering. One of the things for us is we were digital and virtual before pandemic. So in 2020, when people couldn't go see their grandparents or their parents, and they were pregnant and they couldn't bring anyone but their husband into the ultrasound room, we were there when they couldn't gather. And I think that is something, the timing for sure, played to our advantage, but we were there before.
Right.
So we didn't have to do this crazy pivot to virtual. We were already in that space.
Amazing. A little bit of luck doesn't hurt, right? A little bit of accidental planning.
And I mean, when I say luck, I mean, a lot happened in 2020. There's two things that happened in 2020. Obviously, COVID, but then also George Floyd. And so, leaning into organizations who were seeking out organizations to donate to and to support financially. Yes, the luck of that timing was to our advantage, but it's unfortunate that that's what it took.
Right. There's a saying, I don't know who said it. It says something like, chance favors the prepared mind.
I like that.
Yeah, I like it too. I just don't remember if that's a Marcus Aurelius quote or whatever. Regardless, in terms of Startup Sandwich, because we're going to start wrapping this up, because I could talk to you for hours, and I feel like I have.
Honestly, at this point.
The sandwich part we have in terms of the bread of your business, the not the nuts and bolts, but let's say the meat and veg. We've talked about that. So a good sandwich has a nice secret sauce, right? And so in terms of entrepreneurship, that would be your innovation or something really special. I think I know what you're going to say, but what is your secret sauce?
Secret sauce is the community. As I said, because it came before the business. I don't have to do market research. My market research is a living, breathing ecosystem that tells me what they need and what they want every day.
Wow.
And so when everyone was in the group, and remember there was a phase where everyone wanted to learn how to invest in the stock market. I think it was during pandemic and everyone's home and no one was going anywhere. So they had disposable income.
Right.
So I went to Wealthsimple. I'm like, hey, Wealthsimple, I have a whole bunch of moms who want to learn how to invest. You want to do a Facebook Live? They're like, what? Yes. Great. Put them together. Right. And so that was great. And again, building a relationship. I was like, I'll give you one freebie. Come and talk to us for free. I won't charge you anything. But if you want to come back, you want to market to the moms, then we'll have a conversation about sponsorships. Right. So I think ultimately keeping the safe space, shout out to the admins, the volunteers, all the chapter ambassadors. That's all volunteer work. Right. And learning, like I'm just the captain of a ship that I was plopped into this position of leadership,
right.
And I've had to learn a lot about myself on how to be a good leader. And I've made mistakes for sure, but I think ultimately I keep them in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
The question is always, how does this serve the moms? And if I have to wonder, or if it's not an easy answer, then it's a no. And that makes it so easy for me to know what path we're going to go into and what's coming next for the organization.
Very good. And as a captain, you are responsible for the vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if there's one thing that's been clear from our episode today is that you always had the vision and you pivoted and you gathered information, you were open-minded, but you always had that vision. And I believe your community sees you as a leader with vision. So that's amazing. Wrapping this up, we're going to put all your social into the comments, but quickly, if people want to connect with you or Black Moms Connection, where's the best place to connect with you?
Easy peasy, blackmomsconnection.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, we're on all the places. If you want to find me out in the internet streets, I'm on Threads. Threads is my new digital happy place. I love it. Instagram is, it's there, but Threads is really where I do most of my chatting on the socials.
Okay, great. Tanya Hales, very nice to meet you. And I shouldn't say meet you, but for this episode, you and I go way back, but for this episode, it's very nice to have you and hear. And I love hearing all the different aspects of what you talk about, because it reminds me that the audience has so many questions, and even these little bite-sized podcasts, I'm sure they're getting lots of great tips and advice. So thank you for sharing your tips and advice with our audience.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching. And be sure to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you check out your podcasts. Until next time, keep turning small bites into big wins.